So yeah, that's what's going on.
Man, talk about the Lord makes me weepy, man.
Wow, we would have never believed this. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google. Go out there and listen to us. So we're excited about it. We're glad you're excited about it too.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Lunch Break. My name's Blake Burnard, and I will be taking over hosting tonight. Tom seems to be the one who flew over the cuckoo's nest this time for trusting me with these responsibilities, and he tasked me with bringing on an awesome guest, and he said, man, the reins are yours. Find someone with an awesome story, and if we can find a way to weave Jesus in, man, it's that'll just be a little extra credit. So I found someone who fills both of those requirements in my man Cayden Cox.
Yep.
For those of you guys who don't know, I own Grindhouse Strength and Conditioning. It's a strength and conditioning facility in Bakersfield, California, and Cayden is one of my original gangster athletes I've had the pleasure of working with for the better part of the last 2 years, and he has a particularly special and I believe inspiring story of perseverance, being tested through trials and things that the Lord knew he could handle. And he's, I mean, by human standards, I would say you've handled them with flying colors, man. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little about it?
Once again, my name's Cayden. Just want to thank the guys for having me on. It was unexpected to get a text from Blake, but I love having conversations with you, man. So I figured, it'd be just like any other day over at Grindhouse. So
Careful.
But yeah, no, I born in Los Angeles, California, to Andrew and Annie Cox. My parents didn't get married till about 2014, but that's who they are now. Both of them from Southern California. They have a crazy story as well that kind of leads into mine. So if you don't mind, I'll just kind of get into it. If you guys don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my parents kind of met each other in like this dating scene in Southern California, and both of them kind of running from the Lord. My mom grew up Catholic. My dad grew up a pastor's kid, a PK. He was a prodigal, so to speak, and he was running from God and partying and whatnot, and totally not living for Christ or anything like that, just getting by. And they end up hooking up in the back of a truck, and there I was conceived. And at first, it's I'm not shy about sharing it. My parents didn't want me. My dad wanted to get an abortion. My mom was on the teetering back and forth about it. She was scared. She was 18. My dad was like 24, and they're young. And he's like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna raise this kid. I can't even take care of myself. So my dad drives my mom down to the abortion clinic down there, and down south, and leaves her there. And says, you're going to get an abortion. She's like, well, I don't think I am. And he's like, well, I'm out of here. And he goes to the parking lot, slams all the doors, and he gets in his car, and it's a brand new ride he just got, and he goes, nothing. He's like, nothing. He does it 4 or 5 more times, and he says he feels like the Lord just started leaning on him, like he just, like the big brother just kind of just grabbed him by his neck, and he's just like, okay. He goes back in. It's a Christian spot that's undercover as an abortion, as the Planned Parenthood, and they actually have these videos playing all these scriptures about how God formed us in our womb. Psalms 139, I knew you before your mother's womb, in Jeremiah. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where it started for me, really, from the beginning. And I was born there in April, and grew up playing ball. My dad, he's one of my best friends, so he gets teared up when he tells that story because we're so close now. But the Lord's definitely reconciled that. And fast forward, we moved to Bakersfield, California in around 2004, and was already playing ball. By then, he had there's video of him bouncing a rubber ball off my forehead as a newborn, trying to get me to play catch. I can't even barely keep my head up, and he's hitting me with a football. So it runs deep, man, and it's from as far as I can remember, I've wanted to be a college football player, a pro football player. It's just always something I loved and had a passion for. Grew up playing GUIF. I don't know if you guys know about that league out here, the local league, the Golden Empire Youth Football. Played for the Wolverines my whole life, basically, and stayed with that group of friends, and started playing football at Ridgeview in 2014. Had a pretty good career there as individual and as a team accolades. 4 straight Valley Championship appearances, 2 back-to-back championships. So I got a few rings back at the house, and a couple of Southern State section appearances. We had a home game against Narbonne in 2015, my junior year. We went undefeated. We lost that game, but just to be representing Bakersfield in that way, at home over there at Ridgeview High, and getting to be playing in front of that crowd, it's some of the best memories I had. Didn't get really highly recruited out of high school, and I couldn't really tell you why. I don't know if it was the coaching staff or, we were really naive and ignorant when it came to that whole process. Not a whole LJ, he's got his son over at Grindhouse as a 7th grader, squatting 500 pounds. That kid's a stud. But I wish I had a Grindhouse when I was coming up through GUIF. So really didn't even know how to weight train. There was no program in high school. It was just kind of getting there and just let the inmates run the prison, so to speak. We were kind of lucky that we had some talent. Otherwise, we'd have been in trouble. So I graduated high school, and I decided to go to BC to go play as a freshman over there at Bakersfield College. Started texting some of the coaches and kind of hit the ground running. As a true freshman, I started the whole season at left tackle. Gained second team honors in the state at left tackle as a freshman. I gave up half a sack the whole year. Played almost every offensive snap because we had no backup. We had 6 guys.
And for those of you guys, I don't know if you're not watching the video of this, if you were only getting audio.
Yeah.
Cayden, how big are you, man?
I'm 6'5", and I think I'm 325.
Okay, so not a small individual by any means. And I mean, how big were you your senior year of high school?
I was 6'5", maybe 285.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So this guy ended up on the hill. How'd that go?
Good. That first season was a lot of fun. Like I said, started every game. Really expected myself to thrive because I had kind of been getting recruited at D1 before then, and I just kind of had confidence in myself and the ability that the Lord had given me. And so went in there, played every game, and in the last game against Long Beach in the bowl game, tore my left ACL in about the 4th drive. And I didn't really know what had happened. I just was really just running the guy up the field, turning it popped. Hit the ground because it hurt, and I had never experienced any soft tissue injury. I've been playing football since I was 8, tackle football, and kind of scared me a little bit. Kind of laid there. I said, okay, Lord, I don't know what to do. I just kind of laid there, and I waited for the trainers to give me, and I stood up, and I sprinted off the field. I don't know if it was adrenaline or what. So I sprint off the field and under the stadium there where they had the athletic training tent, and I kind of calmed down a little bit. He's like, relax. And I get up. I'm like, I'm fine, Mike. The guy, Mike's the trainer over there.
Yeah.
And I start to sprint, and it feels like my calf and my thigh are connected with Jello. I mean, there's nothing there. And I was like, oh, that's not good. So we sat back down. He taped me up. Had nothing. Didn't finish the game. Came back, got the MRI, tore my ACL clean. So didn't know this at the time. It took a while for my surgery to get going. I got hurt in November, and I didn't get surgery till January because of insurance problems with the school and whatnot. So I've had some scar tissue built up through Christmas. Didn't know this, but the first day back in spring, I come in with crutches and you got the whole cast on your leg. And I walk in through the front doors there to the athletic facility over at BC. And there's maybe 5 or 6 Division I coaches kind of just standing around in the lobby looking for a guy named Cayden Cox. They need to talk to this guy. And I was like, I kind of humbly go over there. And I'm already on the verge of tears because I'm already really frustrated. And it's, Colorado and UCLA and some other Pac-12 schools. And they're like, hey, man, we're looking for Cayden Cox. Is that you? We want to talk to him about some scholarship opportunities. We really loved his film. Are you him? I was like, yeah, that's me. And they're like, well, what happened? I had to tell them, what happened. And they're like, man, we had some paperwork for you, but, we want to take a step back and see how your recovery goes. And I almost started bawling right then and there. You know what I mean? Because everything you work hard for your whole life, you envision it, and you almost get you right there on the cusp of it. And it feels, at least I felt at the time, that it was snatched away from me. I'd worked my butt off physically. I was in tip-top shape, and I didn't know that I was lacking in my hamstring strength. It was always just a natural ability that I relied on. And so it just kind of popped there. For me, it was a freak accident. I was wearing a knee brace. So anyway, I just say, okay, Lord, what are you doing? What's going on here? Because I've done everything right. Growing up a professing Christian, I love Jesus with everything I have. Stayed a virgin because I want to honor him with my marriage that I haven't even met my wife yet, but professing now with my teammates, going out and evangelizing, still leading Bible studies. And I'm like, Lord, these promises you have in Scripture, I don't feel that right now. I kind of felt like David in the Psalms, you know what I mean? Where he's like, where are you, Lord? I feel alone. I feel like you've left me. I'm angry with you, you know what I mean? And so I slow process getting going. It was my first injury. And in junior college, it's not like they baby you. It's kind of like you're on your own as far as recovery goes. And I had to show up and do all that stuff. And it was hard, man, the stim machine and stuff. And it was not fun. So it was a little bit slow process getting going by the time 2018 rolls around. And I just didn't feel like I was ready to play. Coach Trudy was the head coach at the time. And I told him, I was like, Coach, I want to play. Obviously my heart would be to play this season, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I sat out, redshirted, medical redshirt, getting really good shape again, ready to go, ready to tear somebody's head off in 2019, starting at right tackle this time because that's where the need was. They had a guy who could play left, so they put me over to right. And scrimmage against Antelope Valley, I tear my right ACL in the scrimmage.
Now, is this the opposite? You first your left, then you followed up with the right?
So I tore my left knee playing at left tackle in 2017. Missed 18, and then 2019 I tore my right knee playing right tackle. And I still have a video in my phone where you could see me blocking the guy and you could see it go, and camera goes away and comes back, and I'm just hitting the floor.
Absolutely brutal.
The most depressed I'd ever been in my life, because it was really like crunch time, especially for a junior college guy. At the D1 time clock, it's like, man, you don't have too much time left. You got to get going here.
Clock's ticking.
I started as a true freshman, so my clock started right away. And just knowing I had to get surgery again, and just really upset with everybody, just angry. I didn't want to talk, just depressed. And even my family who was taking care of me, I'd cuss them out, it just was low. I tried to get into the word and I just cry. I couldn't even open the scriptures, because I felt like the Lord had left me. And I didn't even know why, I just felt alone. I felt like he had abandoned me. And that was a long process of just seeking him daily, through gritted teeth and tears, and going to church and slowly understanding, like, hey, I'm building you. I've told you this many times. I think about Joseph in chapter 50 of Genesis. He had done nothing wrong, the promised child, and his brothers hated him because his dad loved him, and they sold him into slavery. And through that, he'd worked his way back up as a slave in Potiphar's house, and then all of a sudden his wife tries to get at him, and he runs away and does the right thing. Well, she lies. He gets thrown in prison. He was in prison for at least 10 years. That's a long time. And he wasn't in like a nice prison nowadays. He was in the sewer in Egypt. Like there's feces and urine, Like it's miserable. And he's saying, I'm going to give glory to you, Lord. And the Lord had raised him up through that, his faithfulness to, second in command in all of Egypt, and placed him as a messianic figure early before Christ had came for the children of Israel, that they would be established and saved through this famine. And so I was like, okay, Lord, I don't know where it's going. I can't see the forest through the trees, but I'm going to trust you. I'm going to try and walk in that. And so recouped, revamped, came back ready to go maybe halfway through the season, and decided not to touch the field. I didn't want to use that eligibility. Came ready to go in 2020 like this is the last-ditch effort. I got nothing else, I had some D2 opportunities, but I was like, no, I know I can make it to this level. We'll see what the Lord can do. And getting ready for that season, and 2020 happens, and COVID hits. COVID hits, worldwide pandemic, and shut the whole season down. California was shut down. I couldn't even train. There was nowhere to train. This is before I knew about Grindhouse.
Right.
And I believe Grindhouse was just getting going around this time as well. And so there was nowhere to train. And so, you kind of plateau there. And right around 2021 is when you texted me, and you started reaching out to me. You reached out to me first, And I was like, man, who's this guy, Blake Burnard? I know I had seen a couple teammates, Eamon Sullivan and Josh Ubeda had come in, and they were lifting. They were getting big numbers. And I was like, man, if I can get in there with this guy, I know he'll get me right. And I kind of had delayed that process, and came back in 2021 and started at left tackle again for BC. I was a fifth-year sophomore, playing with like my little brother's little brother. There's little guys, 21, 22-year-old, 18-year-old kids. And so now I got 2 giant knee braces on me, and started the whole season and did pretty well for myself, if I wouldn't say so. Coming off 2 huge knee injuries and a whole year missed with COVID. And, so played the whole season, and got a Division II opportunity to go to West Virginia this last year, and that's when I hit it hard over at Grindhouse. And just can't say enough how much I appreciate you, man, and bringing me in there, and getting me right. You really had prepared me for last season. So I was feeling real confident moving into this. So I was like, okay, Lord, for the first time in a while, I was like, there was some weight that came off my back, so to speak. And I was like, okay, we're going to do whatever you want me to do. I had already started a Bible study with some of the guys out there and already trying to tell people about the Lord and how much he loves them and use my testimony as something that maybe could encourage people. So we get out there, I'm balling out in West Virginia, kind of a trip, man. I felt like I was in summer camp the whole time. It's just wilderness and mountains everywhere. It was kind of fun. So I get out there and had worked a starting position over at the left guard spot. And during the scrimmage, I had kind of strained my hamstring. Well, I thought I was communicating properly with the coaching staff over there and the training staff. Well, it kind of got around, I don't know how, but the trainers told the coaches that I was just slacking, sitting in the training room and not doing my work. And I was sitting there waiting for them to take care of me. And so through that, I kind of had caught some flack with the coaching staff, and they pretty much benched me for the whole season, trying to teach me a lesson, you know what I mean? And so that was tough because I had come through all that, what I just said. And I feel like finally, the Lord had opened some doors, like, okay, you've kind of passed my test a little bit, kid, and let's see what you do with a little bit of opportunity. And I had done my darnest to get in there and pre-prepared, and I felt like it was taken from me again. And, there were some times last season where I, almost got in a fight with the coaching staff because I just didn't understand. We were getting blown out by 50, 60 points, and we can't run the ball. And you got a full ride scholarship guy sitting on the bench trying to teach me a lesson.
Which is a big deal at a Division II university.
Yeah. And we ended up going 0-11, man. We lost every single game last year. It might be the worst college football team.
I'm sure that was hard to sit through. My goodness.
And I only got to play in the last 3 games. And in the last 3 games, I still was able to put together 4 or 5 minutes worth of highlight tape. Just burying guys, this, that, and the other. And I had coaches from the other team asking, hey, 51, where you been at all season? We ain't seen you on tape. I was like, just waiting for my opportunity. So once the season had ended, kind of prayed about it. Was praying about it all year because it was just something that, once again, the Lord was humbling me.
You were in the desert, man.
Working on me, man. Pounding on me. My dad says it all the time. You can't get that fine gold without melting it down and beating on it. That pure 99, it's got to go in the fiery furnace and get melted down, and those impurities get wiped away, and then it gets pounded on again and put back in the fire. The verse I love is James 1:12. It says, blessed is the man who perseveres under trials, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. And in context, it's talking about salvation, but we can, as Christians, we can apply that to everyday life. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As the Lord authors and co-signs these trials in our lives, it's only to build our faith so that we can point to him. So that's just kind of the short version, I guess.
So where are you at now? You were in West Virginia.
Yeah.
And you said you were praying through that. What ended up happening in December?
I decided to, I had texted you, and I was talking to my dad and my grandpa, just trying to get some wise counsel from godly men in my life that I admire. And I had come to the conclusion that it was time to transfer, that, I can't go through that again. Because I had asked the coaching staff, what it was that I could do. Was it me? And it was just these kind of side answers, nothing straightforward. So I could tell that, for whatever reason, they had lost respect for me. And in that way, even though they were saying, man, we really liked what you did at left guard, I shut down one of these other teams. He's in the NFL now, and, played against him. And I didn't play all year, and he's sacking the quarterback, and he got 0 sacks on me. You know what I mean? So
sure. They
were excited about it all of a sudden. So as I was praying about it, I decided, it's time to hit the transfer portal. So I did that in December. And thinking, man, I had done enough. I was eligible in all these things. And January comes around, nothing. Went back to California, started working out again at Grindhouse. February, nothing. March, April, so on and so forth. And it's just another dead period where it's like, man, Lord, I don't know. You start to question if football is still something that God has for you. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. I have a couple offers that I'm praying about, and I told you a couple weeks ago, something that you said to me actually is the act of faith, man, and walking it out daily. So that's what the Lord's been working on me. So we're just waiting. I got a few schools. I haven't made a decision yet. I don't know if I am going to make a decision. I really just want to be used by the Lord now. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's broken me down to where it's like, is my life yours? Are you mine? Are you my kid? Or are you is Cayden Cox in power? Is he in the driving seat? And for so long, I was like, no, man, this is what I want to do. I'm going to do this. I can do this. I'm this big kid. I'm all talented, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, okay, you know, you can't do anything. You can't open any door that I haven't opened for you. And it knocked me down, you know, knee injury, this thing. And so it's like, okay, Lord, you know, I shut this door so many times that it's like, you know, I surrender to you fully. So I don't know if it's ministry or if it's football. I'm excited to see what the Lord is, and that's seeking him daily. Something I've been learning recently, me and my family just got in the book of 1 Samuel. And the first chapter, it starts out with this woman named Hannah. She wanted a kid so badly. And then the scripture literally says, the Lord closed her womb. Why would God do that? Why would God cause it? It says in the scriptures, it caused so much anguish and pain in her life. Every year she'd go to the temple in Shiloh and cry in anguish about not being able to have a kid. She has a sister wife, Peninnah, who had all these kids, and she would mock her. So not only does she not have kids, but her sister wife, this guy Elkanah, had another wife who just mock her all the time. Like, God, he favors me because I have 6 kids, and God hates you. And so she has to deal with this. And it said God closed the womb, and it's like, why would God do that? It's to draw her close. Every year she was at the temple. Every year she was coming close to him, giving sacrifices. That she had built such a close relationship with the Lord that he loved her so that finally he blessed her with Samuel, the final judge in Israel, the prophet that would anoint the first 2 kings in Israel, Saul and David, a very important man in the life of this nation and in Scripture. And not only that, but he blessed her with 5 more kids. And so you always go back to why would God allow that? It's because he loves us and he wants us close. When we're going through great times, you know, everybody, you know, when everybody's rich and they got all these good things going on, I don't need God. I'm doing good right here on my own. But when you're lowly, you've hit rock bottom, all you need is, Lord, use me. I need you. I have nothing else. So I kind of feel like Hannah a little bit. You know, the Lord's closed that up for me in a spiritual sense. And it's just drawn me close. You know, I've never been closer to him. And I'm continuing, and I'm actually yearning for that more now. You know, it's like, Lord, take away all these distractions from me. Just me and you. I just want to know you more, Master. I just want to be in your presence. So yeah, that's what's going on.
Man, talk about the Lord makes me weepy, man.
Man, I'm trying to hold back tears right now, you know, and this isn't the first time I've talked about this, but it's just been such a long emotional journey, and it's not over. I'm in the midst of it still. So I'm still over at Grindhouse working my butt off, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what the Lord does. I'm excited. You know, I said this, one of the main things I said was, you know, if it happens, Lord, it's going to be a miracle from you. There's nothing else I can do. You know, I've done everything else I can. So either you allow and author it, and I'm going to take a step back and just let you do your thing and just use me when you want to use me. So I'm excited for that. And we'll see. We'll see what God does.
Come on, man. The whole thing is, I knew from the day I met you and your dad that the Lord had wonderful things planned for you in your life beyond football.
Yeah.
Cayden, how old are you, man?
I'm 24. I just turned 24 in April.
Can you believe that? Well, how old do you think that he is? He's talking like a 60-year-old man, you know, like it's just incredible, Cayden.
Yeah.
And I'm like literally wiping tears from my eyes because like it's
I'm fine back tears too.
Man, it's such a rare thing to see a 24-year-old stud athlete of all things putting all his abilities, trust, faith in the Lord rather than the money you got sitting on the table. One thing you said that really stands out to me is, and you may not make a decision.
Yeah.
You got all this writing, like literally you have coaches waiting on a phone call. Hey, just let me know when you're ready. Hopefully we're in the conversation. You know, we make you top 3. And man, but even if I don't make a decision, I think you're finally okay with that.
Yeah. It's just, I guess, spiritual maturity. You know, the Lord, like I said, the trials are meant to grow us, to make us more like Christ.
My goodness.
And so as he's making me more like Christ, all I want to do is be closer with him. You know, I don't know if you guys ever watched the movie Facing the Giants. It's a Christian movie, football movie. Came out a long time ago. And one of the things that's always stuck with me is that, you know, if we win, we'll praise you. And if we lose, we'll still give you the glory and praise you. Job said the same thing. You know, the Lord gives and the Lord takes. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And he said this after all 10 of his kids had been murdered. He had lost all his wealth. All his, you know, his friends had left him. His wife had left him. This rich man reduced to nothing. And he says, the Lord gives and the Lord takes. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And the Lord blessed him tenfold after that.
Tenfold.
But just his heart of humbleness saying, Lord, I surrender to you and everything. I know you're the master. God tells him, who are you? Because Job was a little pissed off. He kind of expresses some of his grievance there. And he said, were you there when I threw the heavens up there? Were you there when I formed the oceans? And then pipe down, Job.
Yeah.
Lord's telling me, pipe down, Cayden. You don't think I love you? I take care of the birds of the air. I take care of the little squirrels. How much more do I love someone that I died for?
Right.
If I was the only guy out there, Jesus would have died for me. He died for the whole world, but he died for me. He loves me. And I know that without a shadow of a doubt, even though my flesh wants to fight back against that constantly. And that's been the real battle, that spiritual and flesh tug of war. And for a long time, my flesh was kind of winning in the sense that I wasn't letting the Lord use me. Another analogy I like to use is, there's a black dog and a white dog you got. And the black dog represents flesh, sin, the world. And the white dog represents your spirit and your relationship with the Lord. And you got to go out there and feed one. And whichever one you feed is the one that grows big and strong. And for so many of us, and especially in my life, I was feeding that black dog every day. Cayden, you're a stud, man. You're going to go D1. Look how big God made you. You're the best football player, and blah, 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 blah. It's growing, and then you look over there in the little corner, there's a little white chihuahua. I got this big black pit bull in the other corner. Of course that's going to win. You know what I mean? So it's that daily process of feeding that spirit, man. Dying to the flesh, the Bible calls it. Picking up your cross daily and following Christ. And so the Lord has used that in my life greatly. So like you said, I'm at a place now where even if the Lord doesn't open a door with football, I'm ready to see what else he has for me. You know what I mean? So.
And the wild thing about it is, again, we've only known each other for a couple years.
Yeah.
And I've already seen that growth.
Yeah.
You came in as a giant. Now, I just know the Lord takes great pleasure in you, man.
Yeah,
Let me ask you
appreciate
this. A lot of people don't know how to truly wait and be patient on the Lord. Now, you've been patient for going on years, right?
Yeah.
But now, you do, there is a clock for people listening that weren't student athletes or didn't have an opportunity to play at higher levels where money is involved.
Yeah.
What does that look like, waiting on the Lord? What are you waiting for? I know that can take a couple different forms depending on how the Lord speaks to us, right? But what, if you don't mind sharing, what is it that you... how are you walking that out on a daily basis this final summer, maybe in Bakersfield?
Yeah.
And what are you expecting to happen?
Just first and foremost, taking care of my body, coming in and training and making sure if an opportunity comes that I'm ready for it. I don't want to be a chubby fat guy in the summertime just dying. I want to be strong and fast, and certainly being at Grindhouse has made me that more than ever. Waiting on, the right opportunity. I have a couple partials. And it's just one of those things where I don't know if I want to be in debt. My family, we don't come from wealth or money at all. So when they ask you, I don't know if any of you at home know this, but there's this thing called your UFC score that college coaches always ask you for, your expected family contribution. Mine's always 0. My parents, we make, we're in the poverty section, I guess, when you come to taxes, so to speak. So there's no money coming in helping me out, so I can't just go to any school I want and walk on. The money has to be right. And I don't want it. No, it kind of sounds like, I'm being picky or anything. It just is, it's a necessity for where I'm at monetarily. So last year I had a full ride. I had a few full rides that I got to choose from, and that was a blessing. So everything was taken care of. And this year, not so much, so going into it, what kind of student loan do I have to take out? Setting up a payment plan, this, that, and the other. Do I even want to deal with that? You know what I mean? That's just one aspect of it. Going in, is the school a right fit for me? I could just be rushing into something thinking, I just want to play one more year, going into a spot that's horrible or that wouldn't fit me right.
You've already done that. You've been there.
Yeah. So I'm waiting for the Lord to make it obvious, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want him to hit me over the head with a baseball bat, that way, go. And I'll just, yes, sir. You know what I mean? I'm done doing it my way. My way's, gotten me to this place already. So, I don't want to step unless he says step. So that's what I'm waiting on. So even this offseason, I had a few Division I schools courting me, I guess you could call it, for a few weeks at a time. And, when you played obviously, so you know when a school is recruiting you, they make it obvious if they want you or not. You don't have to guess. They're texting you first. Hey, can we get on the phone with you? Head coach wants to talk to you. Offense coordinator, this, that, and the other. Let's get your transcripts. Let's get your FAFSA again. You know what I mean? So
They're not copy and pasting letters. Yeah.
No. You know, can we get on the phone and we just want to chat with you. So that goes on for a couple weeks, and then, you know, once it gets to the point where they're getting ready to put a deal together, you know, they see how much clock I have left. I literally had 2 Division I schools say, hey, Cayden, we love you. We wish you had more time, because honestly, it's not monetarily smart for us to give you a scholarship at this point in your career. It would be a waste of money for us, basically, to give you a scholarship. We're going to give it to a guy who has more time. And so that's really heartbreaking, you know, in the flesh. It's like, man, you know what I mean? It's just kind of confirmation, like, it almost feeds the flesh again. Like,
right.
See, I knew it. I knew, you know, I had this opportunity. I could have done it if I had just not got hurt, this, that, the other. And I have to, you know, kind of calm back down and seek the Lord. And he's like, calm down. Do you trust me or not? Do you trust me? You know, is my life in your hands or not? And I'm like, yes, it is, Lord. You know, lead me. So even still, you know, through tears, you know, almost daily these last 6 months still, because it's something that I want so badly. And it's not even for selfish reasons. You know, I want to be able to tell my mom and dad, hey, you guys are retired, man. Where do you want to live? You know, be in ministry and use all that for the Lord and just give it back to him. Any place I get to share my faith, just talk about Jesus. You know what I mean? So it was never, I want to drive around in Ferraris and Lamborghinis and showboat, you know, my gold grill and chain. You know what I mean? It was always about taking care of my family and loving on the Lord. So even in that area, he's like, well, do you trust me in that too? I've taken care of you guys up until this point. You think you making it to the NFL or not is going to make a difference in that? Come on, Cayden. So, you know, it's like, yeah, okay, Lord, you know, another whipping, so to speak. You know what I mean? So he's constantly, every day, grooming me and shaping me and molding me more like Christ, you know, that sanctification process. So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm waiting on. I'm waiting on him.
I love it, man. Well, I am curious, as this episode winds down to a close, how do you now, with all that you've been through and where you're currently at, how do you view the sport of football? What are you going to tell your kids when, you know, it's time to share your testimony and it'll come out through how you parent them and how you raise them? And what are you going to tell them that football, held in your life? Like, what was it, an idol at first and the Lord chipped that thing away?
Yeah.
Was it your identity that had to be broken down for him to be revealed? Like, what was it?
First thing I'm going to say is getting over the grindhouse. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, like I said, it was something I've wanted since I can remember, man. You know, it was something that my dad put in me. I've always wanted to be a good football player. And once I figured out that I was good enough that I could potentially take care of my family, that fueled it even more. And so, you know, going throughout high school, you know, like I said, I was starting Bible studies, but as far as my football life was concerned, it was always like, yeah, I'm going to take care of this on my own, and kind of forgot about the Lord, so to speak. It was an idol in my life. You know, I'm ashamed to say it, but it was something that I put before God. And God's a jealous God. You know, he says, put no idols before me. So when it comes to our love and affection, he's going to do whatever it takes if you're his kid to remove those things. And so looking back on it now, you know, it's almost like I kind of set myself up for failure by focusing on it so much that the Lord had to pull me from that. Now, the sport of football itself is great. You know, it's a great team sport. It's a great life lesson sport. In my opinion, one of the greatest sports you can play as far as to learn those life lessons. And it teaches you so much, but in and of itself, it can't save.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just a game at the end of the day. And so I had put so much time into it, and it was time to start putting all my attention into the Lord. And so, you know, I'm going to tell my kids if they want to play, you know, I want them to play all kinds of sports, baseball, basketball, football, multifaceted. I want to prepare them for whatever direction they might go. You know, I'm not going to pound football down their throat, but if they do want to play football, I'm going to prepare them because it's a contact sport and there's a lot of mental challenges more than physical. But I'm going to try and do my best to instill that the Lord comes first before all that stuff.
Come on.
And if you put him first, you know, the blessings will come. And it doesn't necessarily mean monetarily or health or anything like that. It's just, these are eternal things, you know, salvific things. So yeah, that's what I tell them.
Come on, man. Don't undersell the vessel that football might have been
Yeah.
in your life, right? Like maybe it was the sculptor's tools, right,
Yeah.
that were used not only for you, but I mean, we haven't even talked about your ministry on every team you've been on,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I've been around you for long enough to know that you literally can't hang out with this guy for longer than probably 60 seconds before you hear Holy Spirit coming out, man. So like, I just don't undersell that side of it either,
Yeah.
because I know you said you planted your legs in West Virginia and
Yeah.
immediately had a Bible study
Yeah.
going, whatever. It wasn't. I had some second guesses looking back on my college football career and the windy path that took, where I wasn't sure that I had stewarded what I was given.
Yeah.
The best I could, and I don't know if that's, being hard on yourself, conviction. I don't really know.
Yeah.
I remember one day, so I took the long road through college as well. I got out at like 23 years old. I remember I was like I was 24. Sometime in like November, December, I got a text. This is like a year and a half after I had left. I got a text from one of my roommates out of the blue. I didn't even have his number anymore, man. I got a new phone. Somehow he got mine to reach out and say, like, man, I just want to thank you for every way that the life you lived ministered to me. Just watching you go about your business every day, right? I had no idea.
Yep.
So how much more for the guy that like went into it seeking that connection with those around him?
Yeah, that silent witness. That was something that my dad had encouraged me, and even you too, that the Lord can use you. He can use whatever he wants. You know what I mean?
Whatever.
So with somebody who's willing to be used, that was one of my main things leaving out there, is like, man, maybe someone can be saved by just me being out there. And there were some people who were interested in the Lord, and we had good long talks about the Bible and the gospel. And I still have dudes texting me all the time asking me, what does this mean? Who's this in Scripture? I still get to pray with some of those teammates out there. So you never know what the Lord can do.
You don't.
It's all about just being obedient and being willing. Yep. Being willing.
There's so much to unpack.
Absolutely.
We're out of time, man. Well, guys, how could you not root for this young man? At the time of this recording, it is July 10th, 2023, and well, you got a couple weeks left, right?
Couple weeks,
days,
Yeah.
right? I would just implore our audience. I don't know if you guys ever do this, but like I'd like to request prayer for this guy.
Absolutely.
That you would just extend hands, and also that you would just extend prayer for this young man.
Yes, sir.
That the Lord would just order his steps are ordered.
Yes.
But that your choice would be made abundantly clear,
Yeah.
right? And that the Lord's will for you would just leave absolutely no doubt what your next destination, what your next occupation, what occupies your time and energy next is.
Yes.
Man, we love you, Cayden.
Man.
I know that football or not, you're going to get used in amazing
Yeah.
ways. I think everybody listening to this can probably tell. So why don't you tell our audience where they can find you, if they have any questions about recruiting, any of that stuff, or maybe just want to send a word of encouragement?
Yeah. I mean, one of the best places you can reach me is, on social media. Instagram is Cayden_Cox. That's CAYDEN_COX. And on Twitter, my first and last name and the number 51. If you guys just want to reach out. I'd love to hear from any of you, any of the listeners out there. Blake, Tom, you guys, thanks for having me. I love you,
Pleasure,
man.
man.
Appreciate you and everything you've been in my life, and will continue to be your blessing from the Lord, bro. So I appreciate you mucho.
Absolutely, man. Coming up next, we'll be recording a Muscle Matters episode with Mr. Cayden as well. This guy's a total meathead, and he puts up some major numbers. So I want to talk about his journey, what he's learned through those knee reconstructions, and if you guys can take a gleaning thing from that, it'd be awesome. You can find me at Blake Burnard Coaching. That's Bernard with a U on Instagram or Facebook, and that's also my website URL as well. Okay. Guys, until next time. Signing off.
God bless.